Okay, and through you, Chair, we are live. You may start the meeting.
Very good. Thank you very much. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of Cavan Monaghan to order. Before we get into it, I'm going to read the land acknowledgement, which we've added to our proceedings. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Cavan Monaghan is located on the Treaty 20 Michi-Saagiig territory in the traditional territory of the Michi-Saagiig Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to First Nations for their care for and teachings about these lands. May we honor these teachings. Next, I'm going to ask if there's any pecuniary interest or conflict of interest of any members on the committee.
Not for me.
All right, and not for me, so we shall proceed. The next item on the agenda is the minutes of the last meeting, which was in June of last year. Are there any questions or comments regarding those minutes?
Not for me, thanks.
Right. I have none either. I would ask for a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll motion it.
Thank you, Dave. I'll second it. All in favor? Those minutes are accepted. So next we move on to the main item of business, which is the report regarding 9 Tupper Street, application for minor variance. And I'll turn it over to Karen Ellis to discuss that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Semple. Good morning, everyone. So the item on our agenda today is a property located at 9 Tupper Street in Millbrook. This property is located at the corner of Tupper Street and Center Street. If you could flip to the key map, Carly, I would appreciate it. The application number for this file is MV-02-24. So the property subject to the application is an existing lot of record. It's currently developed with a single detached dwelling that's 2 stories. There's a small accessory shed to the rear of the building and a parking lot to the rear of the building or to the west side. The property is about 561.5 square meters in size, or about 0.41 acres. And it has about, I'm going to use imperial. If you prefer metric, let me know, but many people still prefer imperial measurement. So it has about 43.2 feet of frontage on Tupper Street and approximately 140 feet of frontage on Center Street. And as you're probably aware, the lot frontage is the shorter of the two. So for this particular property, the lot frontage on Tupper Street is deemed to be the front lot line. The frontage on Center Street is an exterior lot line. That information doesn't really affect this application, but just for your education and knowledge. If you could flip to the concept plan, please, Carly. So with this application, there on the concept plan, you can see the existing building. You can see the internal layout and the proposed land use or the use of the building. And you can see the design of the parking area to the rear of the building. This building was used as a single detached dwelling. Fourth Line Theatre has bought the property and is now using the property for business office, administration, and retail space. The property is currently zoned commercial mixed use 3 in the Township of Cavan Monaghan zoning bylaw. Business office, retail space is a permitted use in that zone. However, there is a restriction on the use that can occur on the main floor or the first floor. So business offices, personal services, etc., are not permitted on the main floor. That's one of the reasons for the minor variance before you today. The second reason is that with this application and the design of the property, they can accommodate 8 surface parking spots on the property. Those surface parking spaces, though, are in a tandem design, which means there are cars behind another. So if you are the first car in on this property, someone can park behind you. There is not the free vehicle movement that is common in many other commercial locations. Currently, the Township of Cavan-Monaghan zoning bylaw permits tandem parking in a residential zone only. It's not recognized as a permitted use in a commercial use. So the second purpose of the minor variance is to permit the tandem parking layout for this property. The property remains basically the same as it was before. The Fourth Line Theatre has added a sign to the front lawn, and there's a sign on the porch at the front. The existing parking remains basically the same. With the concept plan before you, you can see that there is a landscaped area on the western boundary of the property, and you can't see along the south side of the parking lot, but there is a 1 meter setback there. There's a requirement that that also be landscaped. With this minor variance application before you today, the decision today will affect the use of the property moving forward, in that a site plan approval application has been submitted to the township concurrently with the minor variance application. It is being reviewed by township staff and our associates at Peterborough County Public Works, First Nations, and other department staff within the township. The site plan approval application cannot be finalized until there's a decision on the minor variance. So as proposed, the minor variance will permit business office and administration space on the ground floor of the building, and it will recognize the existing tandem parking layout on the site. There will be no changes to the floodplain overlay or the special policy area regulations that also affect the property. They have to do with the floodplain for the Baxter Creek that flows through Millbrook, but there's no changes to the outside of the building, so those regulations are not affected. As required by the Planning Act, notice of this application was circulated to everyone within 60 meters or 200 feet of the subject property. We circulated the required ministries and agencies, and signs were posted on the frontages of the property, so the notice meets the requirements of the Planning Act. To date, we have not received any public inquiries about or comments on the proposed minor variance. We did receive comments from the fire department of the township, and the fire department has indicated that they will require confirmation regarding fire code compliance with the change of use of the building from residential to commercial, with respect to fire separations between floors and occupant travel distances to exits. The building department is working with the owner with regard to the building permits. The Peterborough County Public Works Department has no objections, comments, or concerns with respect to the application. Autonomy Conservation indicated that the application is consistent with Section 3.1 of the provincial policy statement and does not require a permit from the authority. And although the property is located within the source water protection vulnerable areas, the Trent source protection policies do not apply. So all in all, this is a fairly straightforward application. The application has been evaluated in conjunction with the 4 tests for a minor variance. And if you remember, I know it's been a little bit of a time lag between our last meeting, but the 4 tests for a minor variance include: does the minor variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? Does the minor variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? The third test is the proposed use desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land? And lastly, is the variance minor? Staff have assessed the application in terms of these 4 tests and are satisfied that the application meets the 4 tests because the property is zoned and designated to permit the use. The building exists already. It's an interior conversion only. A building permit will be required to ensure that everything is up to building and fire code. The outside of the properties are going to remain primarily the same. There's an additional signage, a little bit of landscaping that's required, but the use is compatible with the existing development in the area. I'm sure you're probably all aware of the development and the location of the property in conjunction where it sits across the road from the gas station. There's vacant property to the west, which is designated and zoned for commercial uses. This property is in the downtown core. It has been zoned and designated to permit some commercial uses and business office uses so that we can expand the opportunities of our downtown. So as I've said, we are satisfied staff-wise that the application meets the 4 tests for a minor variance. And having said that, we are recommending that the Committee of Adjustment review and consider all verbal and written comments received regarding this application. And secondly, that the committee approve application MV-02-24 with the condition that development and use of the property occur in accordance with the site plan approved by the Township of Cavan Monaghan. And as indicated, that site plan application has been submitted. It's currently under review and can be finalized once a decision on the minor variance is made and the appeal period has expired. And that's all for me, Chairman Semple.
All right, thank you very much. I see that we now have Aaron here. So I won't be voting unless I have to break a tie. Are there any questions from the members regarding this application?
Only question I had was it's a permitted use of the ground floor in a CMU 3 is that for residential, that's just for living area, and then the office would have to be upstairs?
Through you, Chairman Semple, to Member Grant. So in the CMU 3 zone, the primary use for the main floor should be retail. So the fact that this was a house, that the house is actually legal non-conforming because the zoning on the property is anticipating that the residential use would cease over time and it would be converted to a commercial use with retail primarily on the bottom floor and any office or personal service on the top floor. This is the same provision that applies to the buildings on King Street. And the intention behind that regulation is to encourage the provision of additional retail space to broaden out the retail opportunities in Millbrook and to encourage a more community-oriented downtown that in a retail space, people will decorate their windows, people will window shop, and it encourages a much more community-oriented downtown. When you have business space on the ground floor, it's not always as interesting. Like we are grateful for business offices, don't get me wrong, but they don't necessarily encourage the same amount of foot traffic and community gathering as retail space. So that's primarily the reason. In this particular case, so we recognize that the property is a little bit, it's on the rear of the block, the main block. So it's an existing conversion from residential to business office. Fourth Line Theater is a valued member of our community, and we felt this is a reasonable fit for this property.
Okay, that makes sense. It's kind of a bit of retail because people go in there to pick up their tickets.
That is correct. That is correct. And that's why with the minor variance, there was no need to vary the retail provisions because the retail use is permitted.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of the committee?
Through you, Chairman Semple, just a quick more of a comment. I guess, do we have any idea of staffing levels there? Just, would that be any kind of an issue with parking or the staffing? Like, are we at all aware of what the staffing levels are?
Through you, Chairman Semple, to Aaron, I think I don't have a firm number, to be quite honest. I think their staffing levels do fluctuate depending on the time of year. They will ramp up as the theater season gets going, but I believe that they feel that they can accommodate the majority of their employee parking on site with the 8 parking spaces.
Okay, so I guess that would just make sense if it was the staff that was parking in the back row of the tandem parking would be, I guess, would make a little more sense. Okay, thank you.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Any more questions from the committee?
None for me.
All right. I just have a couple of questions. The retail, even though it's not required that we permit it, it's are we talking retail for the fourth line theater only or other retail?
To you, Chairman Semple. So retail uses are permitted. So the property is owned and occupied by Fourth Line Theater. So their retail operation at this moment is their theater tickets and I think they might sell some other things as well. but retail uses are permitted. So it's not, through the zoning, it's not necessarily restricted to just fourth line. Any kind of retail is permitted.
So they would be permitted to rent out part of their space to another business.
Yes.
Okay. Which could affect staffing, I guess, and parking. One other question. Is the only parking this tandem parking, or is there other parking available?
To you, Chairman Semple, there is on-street parking available both on Tupper Street and Center Street. So that is, that's on-street parking is available to any business in the area. There is no formal municipal parking lot identified at this point in time to permit other off-street parking. But I can tell you that, to the best of my knowledge, there has been no parking issues or complaints in that area of Millbrook.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from the committee?
None for me.
Not for me.
All right, thank you. I don't know if we have any members of the public joining in, but if members of the public that want to comment or ask questions, then this is the time.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, we do not have any members of the public in attendance. However, the applicant's planner is available if the committee members did have questions for Jessica.
All right. I assume there are no questions for the planner?
Right.
None, no.
All right. All right, then. So it's been recommended that we approve this with the conditions that are stated in the report. I'd ask for a motion to approve or not approve.
I'll motion to approve the minor variance with the condition of site plan approval.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. Any seconder?
Yeah, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. All right. Now I'd ask for a vote. All in favor of approving with the condition?
Yes.
Right, unanimous. The application is approved. Thank you very much. That concludes our business this morning. So I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave. And
Second that.
Thank you. And we are adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. I apologize for being late logging in. I was having